Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome, everyone, to the Snowflake Corner, episode 63 here. The date and time is the 15th of February, 2025 at 6 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/Reganelite and on twitch.tv/Reganelite1. Got the Twitch chat up this time, which is very, very good here. Hello, Stephen Banker, Jane Wallace, Mithril, and MadMonk33. Good to see you all. Hope you're all doing well. Apparently, my cough still has not gone away, as you guys know, but it is certainly a lot less than it used to be, is what I will say on that. Right, so I do have stories to cover, but I don't really want to dive too much into them at the moment. I really want to talk about something that I really just watched literally just a few hours ago, really, and I really wanted to. I really feel free to chime in on the discussion here. I don't know how many of you have watched you are familiar with the YouTube channel called Jubilee, which had a video on the 30th of March. So it was quite a while ago now. I've only just seen it today, and it had Dr. Mike, who is a very popular, well-known American doctor, versus 20 vaccinators. And they basically had discussions with him about what on their beliefs, and what their experiences and what their understanding of vaccines, in compared to Dr. Mike, who is a doctor, is a medical expert, and has analysed data and experiences. And this video is about 1 hour and 30 minutes long. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. I have put a link for it in the description. And I've also put a link in the description, his reaction, his thoughts on it as well, because he has his own YouTube channel as well. Now, before I talk about this, obviously, context-wise, obviously, it's in America. It's an American doctor. It's American people. And they all are anti-vaxxers. They believe that vaccines cause more harm than help on this. On this. So this is the general discussion that I wanted to open up and talk about before we talk about some of the news today, because I just can't get this out of my head about this video, because I really do think I generally think this is a fascinating video, and the reason why I say that is because given some of the stories that I listened to, some of these anti-vaxxers, I can absolutely categorically tell you that if I was in their situation, if someone that I knew had died as a result of a vaccine, I probably would have gone down this route too. And every single person's case and individual is different. We also have to accept that. And we also have to accept that the American healthcare system is extremely different to the healthcare system that I'm in compared to some of the healthcare systems that some of you guys do, because not everyone here who's watching is from the UK. Some are from, like Jane Wallace's, is from Scotland, correct me, not Scotland, from France, correct me if I'm wrong, so there's a different healthcare system there. But essentially, you know, the American healthcare system, as we know, there's a great deal of understanding of why people feel the need to not trust the American healthcare, the system as a whole, not to trust vaccines, not to trust what they're given. And COVID really, I think, exacerbated these things. But there's another reason why I think more than ever that you have this group of people, more than ever, why there are so many people out there who do not believe in vaccines, do not believe in certain medicines, and believe that they should not be taking certain things, even though that there are stats and there's analysis and there's data from the biggest and the most professional healthcare organizations and doctors in the world, why are telling you why you should be taking them. And the main reason I look at this is social media. Before social media, you did not have because what social media has done in terms of this has allowed these people who've had these experiences, who've had these thoughts, who've had these feelings, whatever, to come together, to band together. Because without social media, they would not be able to come together. They would not be able to. They would not be able to have these conversations with people who also have these understandings and feelings and that. So social media, as we know, is a positive and a negative effect, on that. So I really want to be clear that while it's easy to call anti-vaxxers insane, crazy, and conspiracy, I really do compel, if you haven't watched the video, to do so, because there was one or two of them who, for me, blatantly just ignored the statistics, ignored the stats, ignored what the doctor was saying. But there were some who were convinced by some of the statistics, some of the information that he was giving, and were very keen to hear his side, hear his parts on things about medicine and the vaccines and how they save lives. Most statistics, most doctors, most analysis, most organizations tell you out there that vaccines save lives. Vaccines save lives. They save lives. And the COVID vaccine has in my opinion, and based on most statistical data in most nations, has proven that it has saved more lives than rather killed lives. Has the vaccine caused people to lose their lives as a direct result of taking it? Yes, there have been cases of this. It is a small number, but it has proven that to be the case. But those small numbers, what they have done is banded together. And there have been many cases, especially in America, when you have this situation in America where people who have died, or they've known of relatives or loved ones or whoever, in the situations where they have taken them, and as a result of them have become sick as by it, whether it's just a couple of days or a week or whatever, been linked to it. It's easy to create that narrative to in that belief, and especially if you've lost your life as well. It's easy to have that belief that there is something wrong with medicines, and the reason, and more important, why it's more in America than any other system in the world is quite logical, is because the American system is designed to, the healthcare system is designed to rip you off. It's designed to take as much money out of you as possible. When you look at how much medicine is, well, how much it costs to go to the doctors, to get the healthcare, when you look at that in comparison to the rest of the world, it really does reinforces that narrative of why you can't trust medicine, why you can't trust vaccines, why you can't trust them if you think about it. Because these medicines and these prescriptions and whatnot, they're all under this premise that, but these are all healthcare companies that are making billions and billions of pounds of profit off the backs of American people. How do we know that these medicines, they aren't just trying to exacerbate our healthcare problems rather than help us? And it creates this theory, and it creates this theory, and it's an understandable theory if you think about it in America, that they take certain medicines that may prolong their issue rather than actually help them with their issue because they want them to pay more into the healthcare system. So it creates that narrative. So that narrative is easy to exacerbate when you think about the entire American healthcare system and the system that is under. So I just found it's so fascinating. And one of the things that I've always talked about on my channel is about trying to put yourselves in the shoes of other people, guys, because I do think it's important to talk about putting yourselves in the shoes of other people. Yes, there are some people who are blatant misinformation, blatant deniers, blatant heads in the sand about the truth of what's going on out there when it comes to vaccines, when it comes to medicines, when it comes to things that actually make your body better. There are those people out there. With the intent of doing it, but there are those who generally believe it based of not so much of analysis and statistics, but based off a few doctors that are in the side of case of their beliefs of what they have said, because people don't like to be proven wrong. People don't like to be told that they're wrong. People don't like to be told that you're wrong on things. Nobody likes to be proven wrong. I think that, and I'm a perfect example of that, because I was very skeptical in the run up to the Brexit vote. I voted for Brexit. I regret that decision, and I remember being told by my brother, "You're going to regret that decision," and I have regretted that decision. It's a bitter pill to swallow, and I've swallowed that pill. People these days don't like being proven wrong. People don't like being proven wrong, and it's much harder to convince people when they are wrong, especially when it is somebody who has lost a loved one, or their loved one or their child or a family member that they know has suffered immensely because of vaccines, or because of around the time that their vaccine has been taken, that led them into the situation that they are. So, and this video of Dr. Mike versus 20 anti-vaxxers, I do recommend checking it out. I do understand, I could understand why people would not want to watch it, because some people will see it as from this perspective that they are all nuts and they are all crazy. But I generally don't believe that every single person who is sitting on that, who is an anti-vaxxer, is a crazy, nutty person. I do think there are compelling stories, compelling reasons why they believe or what they believe, based on what they have experienced, knowledge that they have gained. and like I said, putting yourself into other people's shoes to try and understand why do people think and feel the way they feel. I think Dr. Mike and the way he came across in it was so fascinating, so powerful, and how he counteracted a lot of things that were put in front of him. And he was very keen to not include politics, because one or two of them did try to include politics into the debate, which he didn't want to go too much into. But my final thoughts is that, like I said, I would be an anti-vaxxer if I had experienced probably some of the things that some of these people have personally experienced, if it was something like me. This might shock some of you people, but I don't like taking medicine. I don't like taking vitamins. I don't like taking any sort of medicine. I want to be able to build up. I'm somebody who actually personally wants to build up my own immune system using whatever I eat and whatever I drink, not actually having to take medicine or tablets or anything to try and to help me. I want to be able to do it on my own, because I want to be able to have a strong immune system and have strong white blood cells that are built off myself, rather than off the back of medicines that I become reliant or dependent on. I don't want to be addicted to something that's something that I crave or need. I want to be able to develop it myself, so that my belief is that when I'm older, that I actually have a stronger immune system, a stronger white blood cells when I'm older. Even though as you get older, obviously those cells do tend to weaken. I want my body to be able to fend for itself without the need of relying on medicine. That's why I'm very hesitant to take medicine. That's why when I initially had my cough over a month ago, which I told you guys, I stopped taking medicine, because I generally believe I thought I was okay, that I didn't need to take it anymore, because I felt that I don't want to take medicine. But I feel I have to take medicine in this situation, because obviously my cough has been lasting longer than usual. But I don't know if that analogy helps you guys with my conversation when we're talking about vaccines and anti-vaxxers. But quite an interesting analysis that you also put up was about, nothing is 100%, and it's true, because it's the same with everything in life. Because the moment you step out your door, the moment you walk, like you get struck by lightning, which is an obvious one, nothing is 100% bulletproof. No vaccine is 100% bulletproof. But I generally believe that vaccines, the majority of people's lives are saved because of vaccines. However, there are lots of people whose lives have not been saved because of vaccines, and the belief is that those vaccines have killed or destroyed their lives in some way, shape, or form by them, and they feel that they are trying to save other people from vaccines who they believe that will bring harm to them, as opposed to saving their lives and saving others. When the reality is, the most statistics and analysis out there says that vaccines actually do. The majority of statistics and analysis out there from doctors and organizations, as we know, actually does save lives. I will come to all your comments. I promise I will, before we go into news, guys, because I do want to talk about this. I promise I will on this. But even so, the thing that I really does strike me listening to these anti-vaxxers is that, well, if we're saying that, we like, a lot of them accept that nothing is 100% truth. Nothing is 100% factual. And Dr. Mike there is trying to prove that, like, nothing is certain, but it's going based off the base analysis, the base data that they can when it comes to all sorts of different diseases and things. And yes, every single person reacts differently. Every single human is different. Nobody, does it mean that every single test and theory that is done on every single medicine means that once they completed the trials, it's perfectly 100% bulletproof and you can take it and you're going to be safe? No, of course not. We know that. Like, as some of you know privately, some of you know that somebody very close to me has throat cancer, and they've been through that process. And right now, I still don't know if that person, as you guys know, is very close to my family. I don't know if that person's recovered from throat cancer. That person's gone through absolute hell for throat cancer. But I don't know if that means they're going to be better. I don't know if it means it's going to be gone. There's no certainty of that. It's possible that the doctors could check it and they say it's clear, but then it could come back again. You don't know that. So nothing is certain. But we have to go by what we think is by what the best details and analysis out there. But I generally believe that that it's right to be skeptical about things, but to be skeptical about everything relating to medicines and healthcare, I think, is wrong. I do think there needs to be questions about certain things, absolutely. But if we go down this path of just believing that we shouldn't be taking any kinds of these things, I just think it will lead to more diseases, more deaths, and more loss of life. This is why I believe, like Dr. Mike believes, that the health secretary for their health secretary Kennedy is going to cause more deaths than save more lives. But many of those people at that anti-vax table actually believe he's going to make a difference. So he's actually going to save more lives. And they were bringing up, and you can tie the healthcare into, you can also tie the whole healthcare system into, how people are encouraging more people to exercise more, or encouraging more to look after their body more, to eat more of a fair and balanced diet. Like, all these things are, what you eat, how you travel, the environment that you live in, the home that you live in, whether it's a nice, flashy, rich home, or is it a destitute, destructed home, where could you catch mold or disease or whatever. There's all sorts of reasons why you could catch all sorts of things. So there's all these sorts of things that come to my mind when I was listening to this. But it was just, for me, I just found it really, really fascinating. And like I said, guys, the link for it is in the description. I do recommend checking it out. And come back to me with your own thoughts on it. I'm more than happy to have another discussion about this, but I wanted to get some of those thoughts off my chest with you guys. So thank you for listening. If you have, I'm just going to have a quick look and see what you guys are saying about that, because I wanted to get that off my chest and see what you guys are saying with regards to it. Jal says, I mean healthcare system. I think Americans do not have one, says Jal. Jane Wallace says, my old type vaccine I had and my children I happily support, but the new type used in the COVID vaccine, I don't think enough time has passed to get on a long enough term information on. Okay, that's fair. That's fair for them. Good evening, Jao, and good evening, Dave McGinnis. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Mithril says the US has a healthcare system. It doesn't seem to care though, except about profits. Yeah, this is why I think many people don't trust. I don't just think it's just linked to. I think that's why many people are down that rabbit hole, because of the premise has been created, and rightfully so, from Americans. Like, I do say rightfully so, because they're right to be skeptical. Is that for them it's not about the health of the nation, it's about profit. So it's understandable why people are skepticism about medicines produced by some of these healthcare companies, even though they are independently checked. It's still hard for them to be convinced, in my opinion. They do have a health system in the US. It's called Get Sick and Become Bankrupt, says Madwonk33. In France, you have all the bog standard vaccines before you can start school. If your child doesn't have them, then they are not allowed on the premises, says Jane Wallace. Stephen Banker says, COVID has not gone away, but you're not allowed to mention that. Excuse me, I've had 0 jabs. I always have a remedy, never a cure. I am not anti-vaccine, but how it came across and how it was handled raised my caution levels. That's fair point. That's a very fair point there, Stephen Banker. I totally understand. I have not had the COVID jab since during the time of it. But if I had the option, like in all seriousness, if I had the option to take a COVID jab every winter, if it meant for free, I would actually take it, guys. I would actually take it, because I generally think it would just protect me. I'd look for more information about it before taking it, if it was free. Jao says, same here in Portugal. Jen was, you could not work with other people or dealing with public without the COVID vaccine. Here you get vaccinated and that's it. This medicine, not feelings. Mithril says, I understand that reluctance, but my friend just completed his master's in biotech 18 months ago and says they seem to be more effective and with almost no risk involved. Jane says, I've only had 1 or 2 shots because I couldn't go anywhere without them. I wouldn't have been able to go on a ferry to visit my kids in the UK and haven't had to see them for 2 years. Mithril says, exposure is what builds up your immune system. The other stuff helps, but exposure is the most important component. Reganelite. Yeah. This is probably why. Therefore, why I don't like taking medicines, because I feel like my my worry is that it makes my body system weaker by relying on medicines. Like, I want my chesty cough to clear up, but I don't want to rely on medicines. But it's been going on so long, I felt I have to use medicines to try and help me clear up the chesty cough. But I still feel that the chesty cough is still there, even though it's been going on for ages. Even though I went to the doctors, and the doctors both said, on both occasions, they both said that it's nothing more serious than what it is. But there's always been this thing in the back of my mind that there's something more to it, that maybe the doctors are not checking. So it makes me question the doctors' integrity, because they're like, well, I still have this chesty cough. It still hasn't gone away. Like, why hasn't it gone away? Like, the weather has changed. Why am I not better? You know? So that then starts to creep doubt in your mind. Then it becomes a psychological issue, just as much as it becomes a health issue, if that makes any sense. Jal says, I understand avoiding taking medicine. I do it if I really need it. The issue here is that vaccines are boosters to the immune system and not suppressors of antigens, meaning that they work with your immune system, allowing you to fight disease with your effectiveness. Not all, I will just push a little bit back on that and saying that not all vaccines are, not all vaccines do help your white blood cells. Sometimes they do the job of your white blood cells, which means your white blood cells and your immune system is not actually doing the job it's supposed to be doing, because the vaccine is doing it for you. In most cases they do that, but in some cases it's not. It actually pushes the white blood cells. This thing comes into your body. It's saying, we're going to do the job for you. You guys step aside. Well, that's not good, because then they don't learn how to counteract it. If that makes any sense. Again, exposure to working with the environment is important. Yeah, says Jal. I will not be told what I have to do in my body. I know there are penalties and restrictions, but I will not be jabbed without my consent. This is way more important to me, says Stephen Banker. Not offending anyone, different opinions. Nope, you're not offending anyone, Jal. Not offending anyone at all. Yeah, thank you guys for all your comments on that. I thought it was an interesting discussion. Maybe we should have a proper... Maybe I should get like... maybe one angry pagan on and have a proper discussion about this maybe sometime, or one or two YouTubers, and just have a wee chat about this, because I thought it was very fascinating. But do check out the videos. I've put the links in the description, but I wanted to share those with you guys because it was something I've been keen to talk about. And I've just realised, oh dear, what have I done? Oh, I do have some of them on. Okay. Right, so I have 4 stories, guys. I originally had 5, but I've cut it down to 4 because I knew I was going to be talking about that for quite a bit, and we've gone already 20 minutes long. So I thought it was quite. So thank you guys for your comments on that. I thought that was very. I hope what I said was interesting indeed, and I appreciate you guys' comments on it as well. I thought it was a very interesting discussion. Right, let's talk about some of the news that's been actually taking place in the world. So first. Unfortunately, all the news I've got is either around about Trump or about what's happening in the Middle East, unfortunately, because some of the stories haven't updated. There haven't been too many updates on stories that we covered from this morning. But obviously, one of the big stories, obviously, is the case against Mahmoud Khalil in the United States, obviously. And this is exclusive from NBC News. So the government's case against Mahmoud Khalil is shaky, as reliant on tabloid accounts and reviews of evidence show. So Khalil, a permanent US resident, who helped lead pro-Palestinian protesters, was finished with graduate studies when he was arrested on campus and scheduled for deportation. So the former Columbia University student arrested on campus, scheduled for deportation, has filed evidence that shows claims underlying the government's case are dubious. So NBC News reviewed more than 100 pages of documents submitted by the federal government in its efforts to deport Mahmoud Khalil, as well as evidence filed by Khalil's legal system, including his permanent residency application, several articles about his activism, and contracts and letters detailing internship and work experience. And in some instances, the government appears to be relying on unverified tabloid articles about Khalil. In others, the government's claims about him are clearly erroneous because timelines don't match. Lawyers for Khalil, a 30-year-old permanent US resident, has contended he was arrested on March the 8th for his protected speech and was for playing a key role in pro-Palestine student movements last year. I said this before and I said this again. If you talk about being for pro-Palestine publicly, you will be a target. And it's possible that US citizens could soon be targeted in the future as well. Which I think is definitely something to add with that. Madman33 says, the way I see it, vaccines not only helps protect you, but it helps protect those around you. That's the premise of it, yes. But obviously the stories that other people have experienced is different in America, because obviously everybody has different environments, different backgrounds, different immune systems, some stronger, some weaker. There are all sorts of reasons why people are in the situations that they're in and why they experience the stories that they did. Jane Wallace says, try taking munition for your chest. I take Verbi scum twice a day, and it really makes a difference. I have COPD, and it's emphysema. I don't know what that is, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and make a note of your comment, Jane. And I'll have a look at that later. Just as a note, because I'm gonna forget that. So thank you for that. I'll have a look at that. But thank you for that comment. Appreciate it. So I think I don't know for Khalil. I'm worried about him. You know, I've said that anyone who is a pro-Palestinian supporter, whether you are a US resident or not a US resident, even if you're a US citizen, your safety is not guaranteed, because this Trump administration is very hell-bent on going after anybody who speaks bad, ill will against Israel in any way, shape, or form. You're automatically branded anti-Semitism, basically in any way, basically just like that. Your green card does not protect you. They have revoked people's green cards and sent people packing out of the country when they have stood up for Palestinian people in America, and this case here is no different. Khalil's legal team declined to comment for this article. The administration of President Donald Trump, which it says it has revoked the visa of hundreds of international students, particularly targeting those who have taken part in political activism, has presented shifting arguments against Khalil, including claims 2 weeks after he was arrested that he lied on the US residency application form, a deportable offence. Ultimately, government officials said Khalil supported Hamas, a terrorist group, made Jewish students feel unsafe with his activism, and that his continued presence would have serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. The Justice Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Monday. The immigration judge, James Common, ruled last week that Khalil can be deported at the discretion of the Secretary of State Marco Rubio under the Immigrations and Nationalities Act of 1952, which states any non-citizen can be removed if the Secretary of State deems their presence threatening US foreign policy. Let's be absolutely clear here. This person is not a threat to the United States government. He is not a threat to the Trump administration. He is simply protesting his right to free speech, which he and everybody else in America should be entitled to. He's not calling for the deaths of anybody. If there's video evidence of him stating that, then that obviously it's a very different matter. Good evening, Gino Lefty. Hope you're doing well. Unless they actually state that they are wanting to destroy or kill somebody, then there's obviously a very different matter. But like, where is the evidence that this person is a threat to national security? You know, it's the same reasons why I think, I would be sent back if I was to travel to the United States, based off comments that I've made about Donald Trump and things that I've said about Donald Trump. Stuff they can look up on my social media, and they will send me packing because of my beliefs. But they would classify me as a threat to the United States government because, quite simply, I'm sharing my thoughts about how I feel about Donald Trump and his administration. Free speech is irrelevant in this regard. Rubio characterized Khalil's activities as anti-Semitism, and thus, contrary to US foreign policy, Commons shot down a defensive attempt to obtain underlying evidence and question Rubio. Khalil's attorney submitted evidence rebuking all allegations of anti-Semitism in Rubio's memo, including an April 2024 CNN article in which Khalil was asked what he would say to Jewish students who felt unsafe on campus. He said, "I would say that the liberation of Palestine and the Palestinians and the Jewish people are intertwined," he responded. "They go hand in hand. Anti-Semitism is any form of racism that has no place on campus and this movement." That's very well said from him. In the article, Khalil also noted that some members of Colombia's protest encampment last year were Jewish and held Passover Seder's. They are an integral part of this movement, Khalil has said. Rubio's memo, which is the government's main piece of evidence in its deportation case against Khalil, said that while Khalil's beliefs, statements, and associations were otherwise lawful, allowing him to remain in the country would undermine US policy to combat anti-Semitism around the world and in the United States, in addition to an effort to protect Jewish students from harassment and violence in the United States. Is what Rubio's memo claiming. I don't. Can you see in this paragraph I just read where he's threatening or a threat to Jewish people? I don't see it there. One of Khalil's attorneys, Mark van der Holt, has said that such government claims are baseless allegations in an attempt to hide from the fact that its true motivations in bringing all these charges against Mohammed is to silence him. And this is exactly what it is. We know this is what this is. This is about trying to keep people quiet. It's the government's case against Khalil's permanent residency application from March 2024. In the application, Khalil wrote that he was a graduate student at Columbia University and was a program manager at the British Embassy in Beirut from June 2018 to December 2022. The Trump administration alleged Khalil also omitted continued employment at the British Embassy in Beirut beyond 2022 as evidence. The government cited an image of a profile of Khalil published from the Society of International Development upcoming conference in June 2025. The profile states he worked at the embassy. But a spokesperson for the British Commonwealth and Development Office said in a comment to NBC News that Khalil does not work for the FCDO and has not done so for over 2 years. Khalil's extension on fixed-term contract with the British Embassy in Beirut includes an extension until December the 20th, 2022. This contract is dated 1st of November 2022, and that the British Embassy in Beirut seal is stamped on the document. Signatures from both the head of corporate service and Khalil appear on the document. The Society for International Development organisers of the conference said in a statement that Khalil was not scheduled to participate in the upcoming event in June, though he did participate in 2020. Government alleges Khalil also failed to disclose that he was a political affairs officer at the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestinian Refugees, known as the UNRWA, in New York in 2023, and he was involved with the group's Columbia University Apartheid Diverse. Trump administration cites articles, including from New York Post, stating Khalil was a political affairs officer at the UNRWA based on his LinkedIn profile. Spokesperson for the UNRWA said that Khalil had completed a 6-month unpaid internship in New York in 2023. The spokesperson added that he was not a staff member, nor do he ever on the agency's payroll. The UNRWA does not have in its human resources job title of political affairs officer, the spokesperson said. Another lie by the Trump administration. Can you see the pattern that they're trying to do? This is desperate attempts to silence someone. The lengths that this Trump administration are going to smear this person. Khalil's legal team also submitted into evidence a letter from UNRWA to Columbia University informing the school that Khalil was selected for an internship at the Representative Office of the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for internship at the Representative Office at the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine Refugees, the UNRWA, in New York, and it was dated May 17th, 2023. In another letter entered into evidence, Columbia University said Khalil completed an internship at the UNRWA for 3 credits in 2023. The letter is dated April 10th, 2025, and is signed by Associate Director of Khalil's graduate program. Columbia University declined to comment on Monday, citing student privacy obligations. Similarly, the government cited several articles as evidence, including one from the New York Post, the Times of India, and the Washington Free Beacon, mentioning Khalil's involvement with the group Columbia University Apartheid Diverse, the CUAD, in which the government said he omitted from his residency application. The articles were published in late April 2024 and a month after Khalil submitted his permanent residency application. A New York Post article published on March 9th and cited as evidence by the government said Khalil had fronted a radical group, Columbia United Apartheid Diverse, the CUAD, which sympathizes with terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and calls for the end of Western civilization. This is what the New York Post is stating. Khalil was the negotiating spokesperson for the Columbia University student protest, which included CUAD among a coalition of groups at Columbia participating on the on-campus actions, Van der Hout has said. So there was a number of different coalition groups working in it, and this was one of those groups, but he was not directly involved in that group. CUAD is a collection of organizations. There is no individual membership, so the allegations would be completely meritless, even if all of the government's evidence were not from a month after Mahmoud submitted his application, Van der Hout has said. So Khalil has until April 23rd to file for relief and can remain in the United States until then. But they're still going to try. They're still going to try to deport him. I think one way or another, like they're going to try and cook up some kind of story to get on him. I mean, it's not right, but I do feel like they're going to in some way, shape, or form. But you can just tell just by reading this how desperate they are to silence anyone and anyone who talks positive or talks about pro-Palestine, especially those who have big mouthpieces in the United States. To silence them, to keep them quiet, to not talk about it. That's what they want. They don't want people talking about it. What happened to freedom of speech? You're not allowed freedom of speech unless it's freedom towards Donald Trump. That's the direction that they're heading down, I'm afraid, guys. Speaking of Donald Trump, we know he's going absolutely berserk with this insane story that dropped from the BBC today. So Donald Trump blames President Volodymyr Zelensky for starting the war after a massive Russia attack. Right. So I know the majority of you guys, pretty much everyone here, has enough brain cells to understand. I know most of us, we have enough brain cells to completely understand that we're not stupid in not knowing who started the war, who fired the first shot, who's been undermining who the most. The fact that there has to be an article, there has to be news outlets debunking what is something that is factually false is just ridiculous. It's so insane. It's beyond ridiculous. So here I am, right? Gonna criticize Donald Trump, criticize his decision for saying this, right? And then imagine me criticizing, like, I'm criticizing this article, not the article, but I'm criticizing Donald Trump because he's blaming Zelensky for starting the war after the massive Russian attack, right? And then the next day I go out to fly to America, and because of what I say in this video, I get denied entry because I'm calling Donald Trump an absolute idiot because he's a liar. Well, he is a liar. Yeah, but you could be a threat to the president. I'm not a threat to the president. I'm just calling him a moron. Yeah, I know. It's oh dear. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Oh dear. I swear they just come out of nowhere sometimes, the coughs. Apologies. Thank you, Jared, for being a member for 11 months. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is bullshit. This is nonsense. Zelensky did not start the war. Ukraine did not start this war. Vladimir Putin and Russia started this war. They literally kickstarted the war officially in 2014 when they invaded Crimea, taking a piece of their land that was rightfully does not belong to them. And they are the ones who tried to undermine Ukraine's sovereignty. They have tried to make them a puppet in the way that they've done the same with Belarus, because Belarus and its people don't have the same freedoms that the Ukrainian people have, because they've been subjugated by its president for a long, long time. Literally until the president kicks the bucket in Belarus, that maybe, just maybe, there might be a glimmer of hope for them in the future, but I doubt that very, very much. But that's exactly what... I don't think it's a case of full annexation of Ukraine. I think he just wants a puppet regime in Ukraine that's pro-Russian for them. It's just insane. So Donald Trump has again blamed Volodymyr Zelensky for starting the war with Russia. A day after a Russian attack killed 35 people and injured 117 others in the Ukraine city of Sumy. The US president said Ukraine's leaders shared the blame with Russian President Vladimir Putin for millions of people dead in the conflict. If only he knew who started the war. You don't start a war against someone 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles, he said at the White House on Monday. Who started the war? Who started the war? You crazy idiot. His comments followed Russia's strike on Sumy on Sunday, the deadliest attack on civilians this year. Moscow also hit the city outskirts on Monday night. He just will not criticize Putin in any way, shape or form. Trump on Monday at first described the attacks as terrible, but said he had been told that Russia had made a mistake and did not give further details. Made a mistake! Do you know how many times they've made mistakes, Russia? Moscow said it had targeted a meeting of Ukrainian soldiers, killing 60 of them, but did not provide any evidence. That sounds like Israeli propaganda there, where they say they've claimed to hit a Hamas command center in a school or a hospital, but then they just don't provide any evidence, just like Russia never provides any evidence. No, we just take the government's word for it, because the government are always right. They never lie to us, guys. Honest, they would never lie to us. Meanwhile, Ukrainian media reported that there had been a medal ceremony for military veterans in the city on the day of the attack. Zelensky sacked Sumy regional chief on Tuesday for allegedly hosting the event, local media have reported. Trump on Monday also blamed his predecessor Joe Biden for the war's casualties, which are estimated to be the hundreds of thousands, not the millions he claimed. I don't see how you can blame Joe Biden for this, but sure, I mean, you've got to blame Joe Biden for everything because you can't blame anything on yourself. You're not allowed to take any responsibility or ownership because you're not a president. You're 100% perfect president and nothing goes wrong under you. It's all someone else's fault. It's never your fault, Trump. Trump on Monday also, sorry, I read that already. Millions of people are dead because of 3 people, Trump has said. Let's say Putin, number 1. Let's say Biden, who had no idea what the hell he's doing, number 2, and Zelensky. Well, at least he said one truthful thing there about Putin. Questioning Zelensky's incompetence, he said that Ukraine's leader was always looking to purchase missiles. Well, yeah, because they want to stop innocent people being targeted. When you start a war, you've got to know you can win, the US president said. Well, that's what Russia did. They started the war. Trump has repeatedly blamed Zelensky and Biden for the war, despite Russia invading Ukraine for the first in 2014, 5 years before Zelensky won the presidency, and then launching his full-scale invasion in 2022. The problem is, because this is becoming from the most powerful person in America, Americans would actually be stupid enough to believe this, even though it's actually factual that the war started with Russia. But you will have Americans, because Donald Trump said this, because the President of the United States said this, people will generally believe that Ukraine started this war, that it's all on Ukraine. Trump further argued on Monday that Biden could have stopped it and Zelensky could have stopped it and Putin should never have started it. Everybody is to blame. Everybody but Trump. Tension has been Trump and Zelensky has been high since the heated confrontation at the White House in February, where the US leader charged Ukraine president for not starting peace talks with Russia earlier. Okay. By contrast, Trump has taken action to drastically improve relations with Moscow. He said he had a great phone call with Putin last month and that the Russian president sent him a portrait as a gift a week later. Sending him a... Definitely no plans to visit over the pond in my lifetime, says Jane Wallace. I will go to America at some point at some point in my life, just not right now. In February, Washington voted with Moscow against a UN resolution that identified Russia as the aggressor in Russia's war against Ukraine. After talks between the US and Russian officials failed to produce a ceasefire in Ukraine, Trump said he was very angry with Putin, though he added that he had a good relationship with the Russian leader. US envoy Steve Witkoff, who met Putin in St. Petersburg for close to 5 hours on Friday, called the meeting compelling. He said that the Russian leader's request had been to get a permanent peace beyond a ceasefire. The detailed conditions had included the future of 5 Ukrainian territories. Russia is claiming to have annexed it since it launched its full-scale invasion of this neighbour, and no NATO Article 5 referring to the NATO rule that says members will come to the defence of an ally that is under attack. I think we might be on the verge of something that would be very, very important for the world at large, Witkoff told Fox News on Monday. No, Ukraine are not going to, unless Ukraine has guarantees, security guarantees, there's not going to be a peace. There's a possibility to reshape the Russian-United States relationship, though some very compelling commercial opportunities, and I think we give very real stability to the region too. Partnership creates stability, Trump envoy has said. You're just a Russian stooge. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov was less elusive, describing the contacts as positive, with no clear outlines of an agreement. Duh. In an interview recorded before Russia's deadly attack on Sumy, Zelensky had urged Trump to visit Ukraine before striking a deal with Putin to end the war. Yeah. This is something I would be shocked if Donald Trump ever actually goes to Ukraine. I don't think he ever will. Please, before any kind of decisions, any kind of formal negotiations, come to see people, civilians, warriors, hospital, churches, children destroyed or dead. Zelensky said in an interview with CBS 60-minute program. At least 35 people were killed when Russian forces fired 2 Islamic missiles into the heart of Sumy on Sunday. Blast took place minutes apart while many civilians were heading to church for Palm Sunday a week before Easter. Bus was destroyed in the attack and bodies were left drenched in the middle of the city street. Ukrainian and US officials have asserted that cluster munitions may have been used. No casualties were reported from Moscow's strike on the outskirts of Sumy on Monday night. Ukraine's military on Tuesday said it had struck a base belonging to the Russian rockets brigades that conducted Sunday's missile attack on Sumy. Russia's conflict with Ukraine goes back to more than a decade, to 2014, when Kiev's pro-Russian president was overthrown. Russia then annexed Crimea and backed insurgents in a bloody fight in eastern Ukraine. Yeah, we know that story as well. But yeah, it's ridiculous that you have to have this, the fact that he puts it out there. He puts out blatant lies, and it seriously undermines people. It seriously undermines people. You know, the most powerful man in the world. It's really does, you know, discredit the United States as a valid ally in any way, shape, or form. I know there are good people in the United States, but the majority, unfortunately, the majority of the American public voted for an idiot. There are claims that they may have rigged the election in America's favor. We honestly don't know, but yeah, it's a very dark time for America. But yeah, I don't think he'll ever set foot in Ukraine. So guys, I'm going to take a little breath and catch my breath here. So I've got you guys a funny video for you. Trump wanted to divide Ukraine like the USA and the USSR did to Europe after the war. He thinks a bit outdated and watching news from the 70s, says Jow. Viforov says, of course he won't. He's a coward. Stephen Banker says, I don't think people in Europe are taking in the way the American people have been. Trump can say what he wants in America. The more he speaks, the more his supporters is dwindling. Maybe wishful thinking. Maybe. So guys, going to take a little break here. A funny video for you guys. It's an old one. It's a couple of years old. But I hope you guys get a laugh out of this one here. It's an old one for Foil and Arms here. It's about getting past Swiss immigration. This is going to be challenging indeed.
Before granting you entry to Switzerland, you must first answer these questions correctly. What are the 3 main languages of Switzerland?
French, German, and secrets.
Correct. What is the most famous mountain peak in Switzerland?
The Toblerone one.
Correct. What is the most powerful defensive weapon in the Swiss army?
The Alps.
Correct. Name the weakest weapon in the Swiss army.
Tweezers.
Correct. What is a large amount of holes and hardly any cheese?
Credit Suisse Investment Bank.
Correct. What is one of the biggest pluses about moving to Switzerland?
The flag.
Yes. Despite having no coastline, Switzerland has a large amount of...
Offshore bank accounts.
Yeah. What Swiss institution accelerates objects at such speeds that they collide and separate as molecules?
Roger Federer's backhand.
Correct. Why do people travel to Switzerland to meditate?
To enter a neutral state.
Yeah. The cuckoo clock originated in Germany.
So is
What was
that
the
a
question?
No, I'm just reminding you. Switzerland has a long tradition of culinary innovation. What is its biggest accolade?
The world's most expensive Big Mac.
Yeah, correct. Which dropped set still haunts Roger Federer?
his fondue set?
Yeah, he was very upset. Okay. Finally, what is the most ridiculous looking Swiss watch company?
The Swiss Guard.
Yeah. Welcome to Switzerland. Just hold a moment while I contact my superiors, okay? Yole, yole, yole. Yeah, 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 yeah. Na, yeah, 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 yeah. Lu, 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 lu. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yo, 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 yo. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Derek!
I was going to say he does it for another 2 hours before he finishes that call. Oh, the damn neutrals. Why can't they just pick a side? Damn Swiss can't just pick a side. Ah, dear. Just a reminder, guys, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. Share this live stream across social media. Subscribe if you haven't too already. And if you guys want to leave any super chats or gifted memberships, know that any of the funds, any super chats or gifted memberships you do today, or you decide to become a YouTube member, all that money goes towards the Democratic Penguins Republic in its fight against the Trump administration when they declared war on the Penguin Island that doesn't have their fish cost a lot more now. So penguins are struggling. So if you can support the Democratic Penguins Republic and Pingu behind me, feel free to leave any super chats to support their cause. It is greatly appreciated there. That is a narrative I'm going to be going with forever, guys. I know. I'm terrible. Away from lighter notes into a more serious one here. This is very concerning. So, before I go into this story, so this is a story from Al Jazeera. So, ceasefire was brokered between Israel and Lebanon last year. That meant, obviously, that there would be no more aggression. However, we know that Israel are not very good at keeping their words. And the reason we know that is basically based off this story, if you didn't know already. No worries, Stephen Banker. Thanks for popping in. Much appreciated. Israel has killed at least 71 civilians in Lebanon since the ceasefire, the UN has said. Death toll announced as Israel launches new attacks in southern Lebanon, killing one person and injuring three. So, what kind of ceasefire allows Israel to launch new attacks in southern Lebanon? Where is this? What's the point of this ceasefire if one side are allowed to just continuously bombard the other? Like, I know they've crippled Lebanon. They've crippled Hezbollah. They really have crippled Hezbollah by their attacks. But why are Israel still being allowed to do this and no repercussions? None. Like, 71 civilians who live in the buffer zone have died. Like, what is there going to be any accountability? No, there's not going to be any accountability. But this is Israel bullying another country here. Like, it's bad enough what they're doing in Gaza, and I've talked about it to death. But this is just as bad. Because technically there isn't really a ceasefire. It's just one side not really engaging brutally on this. So the United Nations said at least 71 civilians have been killed by Israeli forces in Lebanon since the ceasefire was struck at the end of last year. Talin Al-Katin, a spokesperson for the UN High Office for the High Commissioner for the Human Rights, the OHCHR, said on Thursday that the death toll included 14 women and 9 children. Called for investigations into each and every military action where civilians were killed. Yeah, well, do we think that they're going to take these investigations seriously? Probably not. The OHCHR raised concerns about the recent Israeli military operations hitting civilian infrastructure, including a strike on April the 3rd that destroyed a newly established medical center run by the Islamic Health Society in the southern city of Nagulia. I probably mispronounced that word, so I apologize. It also noted that at least 5 rockets, 2 mortars and a drone that have been launched from Lebanon towards northern Israel. According to the Israeli army, and tens of thousands of Israelis remain displaced from the north. The ceasefire must hold, and any escalation is a risk of stability in general in Lebanon, Israel, and the whole region, Al-Katin has said. How can a ceasefire hold if one side is already deliberately breaking it? And then the moment that Hezbollah and Lebanon respond to this, they're seeing then everyone, Israel will turn around and scream, "Look, they're breaking the ceasefire agreement." It's like, we have to retaliate because they're attacking us. And it's like, dude, you've been attacking us for God knows how long. Yeah, but they're breaking the ceasefire agreement. But you guys have been attacking us. Look, they're still attacking us. This is how Israel would approach it. No, not take ownership responsibility like Donald Trump. They'll say, look what they're doing. They're doing it. We're just defending ourselves. Self-defense. Later on Tuesday, I've got to lock it in my mouth in case anyone's wondering. Later on Tuesday, Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health reported that an Israeli drone struck on a car in the southern town of Adwan, killed 1 person and injured 3, including a child. You know, I covered the story today on Rumble about there was a story from Middle East Eye about a where a I think it was a grandfather, and basically someone's entire generation has been wiped out. Basically, their bloodline's been entirely wiped out. The son had died, the grandfather had died, and the father lost his wife, and he's got literally nothing now. And guess what he was doing? He was sleeping in his tent with his son, and the blast killed his son. This was in Gaza. Just wanted to share that story. Israel has continued to strike Lebanon, including attacks on the capital Beirut. Why? Since a November 27th ceasefire, which largely halted more than a year of hostilities between Israel and the armed group Hezbollah, including 2 months of an all-out war. See, I want a reporter to say to Israel, look, you agreed to the ceasefire, why are you breaking the ceasefire? Like, just someone blatantly ask the question. Under the truce, Hezbollah was to withdraw fires from the south of Lebanon's Latni River and dismantle any remaining military infrastructure while Israel was to pull out all of its forces from southern Lebanon. Lebanon's army has been deploying to the south near the border with Israel, as Israeli forces have been withdrawn, although Israel continues to hold 5 fortified positions in Lebanon that it deems strategic. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun told Al Jazeera on Monday that the army was dismantling tunnels and warehouses and confiscating weapon bases south of the Latni without any problems from Hezbollah. On Thursday, a senior Hezbollah official told Reuters news agency that the group is ready to hold talks with the Lebanese president about its weapons if Israel withdraws from southern Lebanon and stops the strikes. Well, they're not going to stop the strikes. Like, it doesn't matter if Hezbollah basically disbanded. Do you know what Israel would do? They would carry on. They would find another excuse to carry on. That's what I generally believe, that Israel are just doing this because they can. They shouldn't be doing it, but they're just getting away with it. It's so infuriating. It really, really is. It's not fair on Lebanon. It really is not. But it's not genocidal, right? Just asking questions here, says Joe. Yeah. Mithril says, the most moral army in the world. Don't forget. Yeah, they're the most moral army in the world, guys. Yeah, they definitely have morals, don't they? Yeah, it's really hard to buy that. Speaking of Israel, CNN here. This is the last story. Israel proposes Gaza ceasefire deal to release 10 hostages for hundreds of Palestinians, Hamas has said. So, I wasn't sure if Hamas are actually... I don't know how serious Hamas are about this story. Because I wasn't expecting them to actually come to the table, but maybe it's because food and aid is cut off. Maybe it's because its people are literally dying. Gaza is literally dying. That perhaps maybe they feel that they've got to try and compromise somewhere, which is why I think they're doing this. I don't know if they're actually going to get a ceasefire deal. Whatever ceasefire deal they get will not be one that will favour them. My general belief is that they're not going to let all the hostages out because they cannot afford to. But I think some of the concessions that Hamas want, they're not going to get in this situation. Especially what Hamas did on October the 7th. The retaliatory by Israel has been brutal. I've said it so many times about the atrocities inside Gaza. I don't need to say it again. But do I have any hopes whatsoever of this Gaza ceasefire deal? No. Simply because we have a Trump administration. That's my general consensus. Not just we got an unchained Israeli government willing to do anything and anything it wants, but a Trump administration that will back Israel to the hoot no matter what it does. So Hamas is studying an Israeli proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza that would see 10 hostages released in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners and detainees, an official with the militant group told CNN. That is one thing that they wanted assurances. They wanted Palestinian prisoners released. The proposals revived by Hamas on Monday outlines an initial framework for a 45-day truce in the Palestinian enclave during which the two sides would aim to negotiate a permanent ceasefire, according to the official. The Israeli proposal also calls for the disarmament of Gaza, previously a red line by Hamas. does not include a guarantee of a permanent end to the war, which Hamas has demanded as part of a comprehensive agreement. What does it mean by disarmament of Gaza? The Hamas officials said the group will not agree to any Israeli ceasefire proposal that calls for its disarmament or sees Israeli forces returned to Gaza after initial withdrawal, making it unlikely that the group will accept it. The offer marks Israel's first proposal to bring back hostages from Gaza since it resumed the war in March. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under intense pressure from hostage families and a growing number of military reservists to reach a deal. CNN has reached out to Israeli officials for comments. Under the proposal, the hostages would be released in stages, starting with Israeli-American Eden Alexander on the first day of the truce as a special gesture to the United States, the Hamas officials said. A further 9 Israeli hostages would be released in 2 stages in exchange for 120 Palestinian prisoners serving life sentences and more than 1,100 detainees held without charge since October 7, 2023, the official added. Israel's proposals also demand that Hamas provide information about the remaining living Israeli hostages held by the group in exchange for information about the Palestinian detainees, and the release of bodies of 16 deceased Israeli hostages in exchange for the remains of the 160 deceased Palestinians held by Israel. This is the current status of hostages abducted by Hamas and its allies on October the 7th here. In total, 251 people in Israel were taken on October the 7th, 2023. The Israeli government says 58 are still in Gaza as of February 27th, 2025. So they say here, still in Gaza, presumed alive 24, presumed dead 34 there out of 58. Recovered 193, released 137. Rescued by the Israeli military 8. Recovered dead 45. Escaped and then accidentally killed by Israel military 3. So I have to smile even though it's wrong to smile, because this here, I think this is a lot higher, but they're not going to say that. So the temporary ceasefire lasting 45 days will also include the cessation of military operations and the entry of aid into Gaza, as well as an agreed mechanism to ensure that aid reaches only civilians, the Hamas official said. The proposal will also include the entry of equipment necessary for sheltering Palestinians displaced in Gaza. A Hamas delegation met with Egyptian and Qatari mediators in Cairo over the weekend. Israel has not publicly acknowledged whether it sent a team into the negotiations. Since early March, Israel has cut Gaza off from the supply of humanitarian aid, including food, with aid agencies warning that the situation for the Strip's 2 million civilians has deteriorated dangerously and only worsening by intense Israeli military operations. Israel's move to block aid came ahead of a renewed military offensive in the enclave, in what is said is a bid to pressure Hamas into releasing more hostages and impose new conditions on a ceasefire that was in effect at the time. And more than 1,500 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since mid-March, according to the Ministry of Health in the enclave. Under the new ceasefire proposal, the Israeli military would withdraw for 7 days from parts of Gaza, including the southern city of Rafah, some areas of the north and east of the Gaza city, according to the Hamas official. Israel's proposal also stipulates the disarmament of the Gaza Strip and negotiations on a declaration of a permanent ceasefire to begin on the 3rd day of the truce, an official told CNN. Negotiations for a permanent ceasefire should be complete within 45 days, after which the remaining Israeli hostages held by Hamas, both living and deceased, would be released to Israel, the official says. If an agreement is reached on the temporary ceasefire, it can be extended under conditions for a duration agreed upon by the two parties. If the period ends without an agreement, it will be extended in exchange for new prisoners. Some details outlined by the Hamas official appeared to match aspects of the proposed earlier confirmed to CNN by a senior Israeli official. The Israeli official previously told CNN that the latest proposal from Israel would demand the release of 10 hostages from Gaza, as well as the release of Alexander, as a gesture of to President Donald Trump. According to the Israeli official, the proposal would include phases including which Hamas would provide information about all other remaining hostages. On Sunday, Netanyahu's office said steps are underway to reach a new hostage ceasefire deal in Gaza, while speaking to the family of the hostage Itamar. One of the groups representing hostages' families, the Tavia Forum, confirmed the conversation and said that Netanyahu had updated the Moore family on the progress of the negotiations for the release of 10 abductees alive. Israeli media has also reported that the negotiations are for the release of 10 hostages, but the Prime Minister's office has not confirmed the number. CNN is working to confirm other details of the proposal that were laid out by the Hamas official. Also on Sunday, senior Hamas official Mahmoud Khalil said on Telegram that while Hamas have a positive attitude to any proposal based on halting the aggression and the withdrawal of occupation forces, you will not accept a shift towards a fragmented process limited to a food for prisoner hostage deal. CNN reported last week that mediators have been frustrated by Netanyahu's decision to push aside Korean national security professionals who are leading Israel's delegation in talks of a favour of his closest advisor, Ron Demir. They said the move has slowed down the discussions to resurrect the broken ceasefire. I do not trust anything Israel says or does, but I read Nazazine that I'm a part German. I think all shorts battery could be dead, says Bad 133. What do you mean? What's that about, all shorts? Yeah, this is very interesting indeed. I have to monitor this closely. I don't know how much of an influence the Trump administration will have on this, because they did speed up this. They did speed up the initial proposal. If you remember, they initially, when the Trump administration was starting to take over from the Biden administration, they did help speed up the proposal to get the ceasefire through. It was initially by the Biden administration, the first initial ceasefire, and it was the comprehensive ceasefire was very, very good. It was a very good one, but I felt that it was going to be sabotaged by the Trump administration anyway. So, all Shorts was live streaming on his Shorts channel. Oh, okay then. I wasn't aware. I don't get notified anymore when he's live, which is a shame. So I always miss his live streams now, which is a real shame. Do I think this ceasefire deal is going to work? No. Is it possible it could get reached? Maybe. Do I trust Hamas? Hell no, because of what they did. Do I trust Israel? You guys know the answer to that already. For me, it's about the people. For me, it's about the Palestinian people. And are the Palestinian people going to get what they need? I don't know. I generally hope that the aid trucks do get in. I generally hope that people get what they need. And I generally hope that they can rebuild their lives. And I generally hope that Israel leaves the Gaza Strip and lets them live in peace. But that's a lot of hoping. I really don't have a lot of faith in that. I really, really don't. All I can say is we'll have to keep an eye on it as close as... Obviously, if something dramatic happens, I'll let you guys know. But I'm not holding my breath on it, you guys. So, guys, before we head out here, I didn't do it last week because my voice wasn't 100%, as you guys know. But my voice is good enough this time around to do the funny memes. It's a shame number 3 is not here for the funny memes because I know how much he loves them. I'm just reminding myself what they are because it has been a while since I checked them. Oh, okay. 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 Right, I've got 5 memes for you guys. Hopefully you guys get a chuckle out of these before we go. So I hope you guys enjoy these funny memes. Let's see how we go. So for those who don't know, I do funny memes normally at the end of this live stream, Snowflake Corner, to try to shake things up a little bit differently to other live streams. So I hope you guys enjoy these funny ones here. In which battle did Napoleon die? His last one. Where was the Declaration of Independence? At the bottom of the page. The Ravi River flows in which state? Liquid state. What is the main reason for a divorce? Marriage. F for answers and A+ for creativity. Give that kid a medal! This is how my phone charges. And this is how it discharges. Indeed. That's definitely how I feel about my phone charging. One of my Twitch subs got me a Tesla. I just spent $70,000 to be called one of my Twitch subs. I'm never gifting anything ever again. What a waste of money. Terrible. Go camping, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Yeah, guys, camping's fun. Definitely fun. When there are bears about. There'll be a bear of sympathy. I wanted to start singing the jungle theme there, but I can't. Lee Moores are sharing a lovely meal there. I thought this was a new spider form. You guys think it's a spider. Does look a bit like a spider, doesn't it? No, it's a bunch of lemurs sharing a meal. You're not looking at it properly. That's your fault. There's your 5 memes, guys. Didn't get them last week, but you got them this week. Not sure how. Some mixed reactions I'm going to say from them. But let me know what you guys thought of them. I hope you guys have got a bit of a laugh or something out of them in some way, shape or form. So I will be back tomorrow morning with another Good Morning with Reganelite. I don't know if I'll talk more about the vaccines or not, but I think I've talked about enough of it already there. But am I still live? Yes, I am still live. Yeah. For some reason it wasn't. I wasn't sure if it was live or not, but I think we're okay. Yep. Drop like and all that kind of stuff. Lemurs are the drag kings of Africa, says Jao. Boars run a lot. This also fun with boars when you are camping. No worries, Astakir. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Hopefully you'll join me tomorrow morning. Yeah, so no worries. Those eyeliner lines, yes, indeed. So, guys, I want to say thank you guys for coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. It is greatly appreciated. Join me tomorrow morning for another Good Morning with Regan Elite, and we'll talk about some of the things that are happening in the news, and I'll share some non-news stuff if you guys don't like doing that. I like talking about that stuff, so hopefully you guys will join me for that. I'll be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow with that. And then we will have the Snowflake Watch that evening as well. Do check out, I don't know if Geoscopes is happening at 7:30 on Politics Social with Bowler Hatman and Graham Hughes, if you want to join them for that. And then I'm assuming Max is going live at 8:30 tonight. Hopefully he is. Do join him for that as well. But have a good rest of your evenings, whatever you guys are doing. Thank you guys all for coming along, like I said. Don't worry, the fight still continues. For the Democratic Penguins Republic, Pingu said that he's already ordered some based on the super chats and gifted memberships that he's gotten over the last few days here on the channel. He's gotten some new munitions and supplies against the Trump administration. So they want to say thank you for that. It will help the Penguins Republic in gratefully, guys. So really wanted to say thank you guys for that. But just before I go, I just have one last thing to say. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you're on Twitch, hit that follow button and hit the bell notification icon on there so you'll be notified when I go live. If you're here on YouTube, share, subscribe, and if you haven't hit that bell notification icon, do hit it. You'll be notified of whenever I go live. If it doesn't always work, so sometimes you need to turn it off. Turn it back on to get the notifications working on there as well. And if you want to go one step further, find support me in the work that I do here and support the Democratic Republic of the Democratic Penguins Republic. You can do so as well by joining the membership here. That the funds goes towards them, towards their work. Other ways you can financially support the work that they do and the work that I do is also by becoming a Patreon supporter. Do consider joining the Patreon as well. We do have some exclusive content on that platform, and do check out the Rumble page as well. There's plenty of content dropping this week as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.